Okay, we're supposed to be live. We're gonna see. Let's see if we're live. It says live there. Wait, we're not gonna be like the last one that we end up freaking out because it's not. Oh yeah, now it's live. Okay, boom, we're back. The Tru-Mon show. Now I can do my boom. How are you guys? I'm with Pilot Steve and Mike this morning, and Anthony is to join us very soon. Okay, we're back. The Tru-Mon show.
Hey.
Myself at the back. Why? Hold on. There's might be some.
Hey, it was my fault. It was my fault.
Oh, it was your fault. Okay, you too. You had something playing in the background.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we're back this morning. Yeah, for sure. This morning for me and this afternoon for you guys for another little live reasoning about flat Earth. There's been a lot of stuff that's been said and written and. Since the last hangout we had, for sure, people have gonna comment on the video, and I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that comes along and gives their. We all, there's truth in what we do, truth in what we are, and truth in what we say. So that's everyone. So the truth is what we are, is us. The truth. The truth. Sometimes we look a lot for the truth outside of ourselves, but I think we're looking more for lies. The truth is us. So. There's truth in what we say. So let's say it. So to start, I would like to come back on the chemtrails subject to start. Hi, Tony, I see you. Big up, Tony is here. He just joined us.
Hi, Tony.
Yeah. Good to see you guys. Sorry for being a little late.
It's okay, no problem. We're not. We go by the time, but we don't let time manipulate us. That's for sure. So
great.
We're gonna go by time because we have respect also for people that log in. They expect us at a certain time, so it's just normal. But as long as we don't let time manipulate us, we're okay, I think. So I would like to go back on the chemtrails to start because a lot of people seem like. I would like Pilot to tell us a bit. Do you think all you see? Because me, I think that some of and especially since our last hangout, I looked more and more at the trace in the sky, at the trails, and I can realize that some are contrails, but I still cannot get the fact that it's all contrails. And do you think it's all contrails, every trail you see, or there is chemtrails for real? Because some people seem to be thinking that you're giving disinfo and stuff, and that do you really think that it's all contrails, that they're not spraying us even for radar purposes? Because it could be also the reason why they spray us could be for defense purposes to block the radar. The whole thing. The whole thing is fantasy. So they have to make people believe that they are against another country and this and that. So they have to build the whole matrix. So maybe the fact that they're spraying us is to the people that do it, it's for military purposes. That could be it, but it could be for something entirely different. But also I have problem. Also another thing, you can continue after on my reflection, thinking that all the pilot are in it, because the pilot, like I think it's Tony or Steve came to comment, or Mike, I think it's Mike. It's Mike came to comment on the video, and he says the pilot has to be aware of the weight of the plane before takeoff. So there's a lot of stuff involved before the pilot takes off with the plane. So maybe pilot can tell us a little bit more about all this, and you can all put your words into it. Like just launch it, and now it's up to you to give me your take on it.
Okay. Our team, we don't like to discuss this a lot, this kind of questions about chemtrails and contrails. We have decided we want to stay in focus with flat Earth things rather than this. So for start is okay, but we should go short on this. Okay, Yannick? So for me, as an airline pilot, commercial pilot that flies a jet plane, I know what these contrails are, what these effects produced by engines, jet engines they produce on the sky. As fact, on chemtrails, I only see on videos, I only see photos, I only see what they show me on internet. I never saw this on live. So as you suppose, as everybody is asking, how can this goes inside a plane with the people inside? And I can tell you guaranteedly that we do not carry any chemicals on board to spray in the air. Non-commercial planes do that. The photos I've seen, it's aircrafts without passengers, full with some what you can say equipments that have supposedly toxics inside that they spray out. So it's just photos I've seen. So I can tell you that commercial airplanes full of passengers, they don't carry those chemicals inside. As you ask me, I can tell you that the payload that we lift off when we are preparing for a flight, it's very restricted. We have to be sure about the quantity of tons that we carry, because we need fuel to plan the trip, and it depends on the tons you are carrying with you. More tons you carry, more fuel you will need. So these questions about contrails and chemtrails, it's, as I see, it's very sensitive for people, because they really are afraid they are being sprayed. So if you will deny it, they will call you a liar, they will call you agents, they will call him, because they really believe in this. It's very, very, very difficult. What can I tell you is that contrails are real. Contrails are pure ice crystals. Of course, you can ask and can suspect about toxics inside the fuel they put in the fuel, and you burn those fuels, but it's not what you see. What you see there is water. It's water transformed in ice in the sky.
Pilot,
Yes.
even adding something to the fuel. If I add something to the fuel of my car, it will not run. The fuel has to be clean to go in an engine, especially a plane.
Of course. But they tell me they have contacted the manufacturers of the engines, some guys, and they told me they admit they are putting some toxics inside of the fuel. So can you see where is this going, right? But
I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
Of course.
If you add chemicals to fuel, you will ruin the engine.
Of course.
We know that. We know that with our cars.
Yes.
So people are believing in this, but the problem is the geoengineering that are providing this information. I've seen videos by geoengineering that are pure contrails, pure. They have nothing to do with chemtrails, and they are selling it as chemtrails. So what can we do? Explain people what things are? Well,
because to people, I think the general idea of people is we're being poisoned from every angle. So they see poison in food, they see poison there, but it's a choice for you to eat the poison in food. You have the choice to eat good food. If you eat poison, it's your choice. So they see now the correlation that everywhere it's poison, and where they see everything as being very, very evil. Like many people see so much evil in the world that it's all they see after. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they also don't think about the physics behind a contrail, because if a contrail is pure ice crystals and it's floating at 40,000 feet, what is the temperature at 40,000 feet? That's far below freezing. And what does it take for a ice crystal to dissipate into a gas or a liquid state? It needs heat, and that's not up there, so they will linger, just like any other cloud will linger.
Yes, of course, and I want to add something about that. That's why contrails are not all the same, and they don't last the same, because not all clouds are the same. All clouds not last the same. So it depends of quantity of measurements, difference, the winds, the temperatures, the pressure. it's a lot of factors that will turn those contrails in different shapes, in different lengths. They disappear more often, less often.
Yeah. Is it possible to go in the air and catch the contrails behind? Can the experiment I would like to see done, if it's water crystals or stuff, they should be able to grab them from the air. Like if there's an airplane going behind another airplane and catching the stuff in the net and bringing it inside the plane, we could see the ice crystal. Could we see it?
Yes, but would have to be a special airplane, not a
Yeah.
commercial plane. Yes, of course.
Yeah, something to catch it, like, and then we would be like the hype would be over.
That's what Anthony you would like me to do.
Yeah, that's what Anthony was thinking.
Yes, definitely. I've considered this before also. And I have to tell you, in this area, there's something that the population is suffering from. It's called information asymmetry. And that sounds like a complicated thing, but when we're conducting an investigation, we have to take into consideration the reputation of your culprit. Who's the culprit here? Our government, right? The people running these big corporations and these government entities that tells us what's correct and what isn't correct. We obviously don't trust them. And I don't want to sound like the crazy conspiracy guy in a flat earth group, but I got to say this. I have to say that there is far too much motive for them to install things like vaccines and aerosols. And that's not a conspiracy theory. This is a fact. If you look up FUNVAC, FUNVAC, just do a quick Google. And this was a project they were conducting in Afghanistan. It was an experiment that kills the essence of God in the human brain. The human is the only animal, if you want to call us an animal. I don't think we're animals, but anyways, this is how scientists look at it. But we have this idea that there's a bigger being. And so guess what? There's facts out there that prove that you can kill this in your brain so that you don't think of God anymore, so that we get rid of all of these extremists. So you put two and two together and you say, all right, listen, I don't like the smoke coming out of that airplane. What is that? Oh, it's just contrails. All right, good. I'm glad you told me that, government. I appreciate that. I could sleep easy tonight. Not so easy. I'm going to suspect the worst. I know that vaccines and aerosols exist, and then I'm a little suspicious of those contrails. To me, it seems like a great way to A, poison the soil, B, vaccinate people's brains so that we turn into zombies, and etc. Going down the list with the other theories about making radar more powerful for their uses, HARP, etc. And there's enough doubt for me to spend $100,000 to start a campaign that will raise the money to send up, make Janek's idea. Let's send up some sort of independent device that can capture these contrails, and we could run our own tests. I think that that's something that has to be done before I am convinced. Sorry, pilot, I love you, man, but you know.
Me too. Me too. That's what I would like to see done to really convince me. I would like to send. It's like for the horizon. We all send balloons. Suddenly, we were all sending balloon in the air to see the horizon. But why we don't send stuff to catch the chemtrails? It's not that high. It's just at the plane level. So we could send balloon to somehow catch it and press a remote control and bring it back down or something.
I don't think there's any doubt that there are chemtrails, but they don't come from commercial airlines. You know, NASA and the military have all admitted to aerosol injection, stratospheric injection, or whatever they call it, as part of some sort of research project they were working on. You know, that's the chemtrails. Those chemtrails are real, but if you make them indistinguishable between normal contrails, you know, who can tell the difference?
That's what I'm saying. There could be military stuff involved with chemtrails. Like they might be spraying for anti-radar or something. Like I heard that, and that makes sense to me because they were all caught up in thinking we're countries against countries when the whole world is staged. So. It's very, what Steve thinks about this.
Steve, are you
Hi,
there?
everyone. I'm here.
Yeah, what do you think about this?
I don't know. Contrails has never been a very interesting subject for me just because it's difficult to prove one way or the other. So I guess I kind of avoided it because, even the idea of putting something up there to capture the chemtrail, I think would be full of complications, and probably that's why it's never been done. So I don't know. I think that military probably has done it in projects and wars to test it and everything, but whether they're doing it on Americans or on sort of their allies, you know, they might be testing it in, you know, war zones, Vietnam and stuff like that, but I don't think they're doing it in public, because they're living here too, you know. So anecdote, but kind of you have to get a kind of extreme to believe all those things that support it. So I kind of avoid it because it's hard to come to one conclusion or another without the facts.
And could it be also the fact that they are doing cloud seeding like that day after day because someone just put something in the chat makes me think of that. The water that is in the cloud, it's good water, it's pure, it's purified and everything. So it comes down to us. Some people collect rainwater also for use. So could there be something to poison the water or something like, I don't know, I'm just saying.
I don't know. I think they're poisoning it. The corporations are poisoning it satisfactory enough, you know, just in all the other ways that they're doing it, rivers and acid rain and all the chemicals that are going in from the factories. So to add to that with planes, you know, I don't think it's even that necessary. If you want to pollute a city, just get all your industries to cooperate and pump the stuff right out of the factory smokestacks.
That's it. Why
Really?
They would give them so much trouble to send planes, and like it's much easier to just put it in the water. Everybody drinks tap water, so pretty much.
All right.
And I want to add something else, if you don't mind, concerning the atmosphere and the clouds. Only water goes up. All the toxic particles stays down. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's very important, what you're saying there. Go ahead.
Yeah, when clouds are formed, it's all just water vapors that goes up. All the toxics, all the waste particles in the atmospheres goes down. So the clouds are also a way to clean the atmosphere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a distillation process for the Earth.
Yes, it's a distillation process, and it's a cleaning process also. And this it's very interesting if you study
the
atmosphere.
Interesting about that is ice. If you've ever put like a bottle of water, a plastic bottle of water in a freezer, they say that when you start to melt it, that the final piece of ice that's left in there contains the most toxins. So the ice seems to be, you know, when it turns to ice, seems to collect the toxins.
So when you go through a cloud, a dense cloud with an airplane, do you have to start your windshield your washer blades?
No.
Like, is there so much water in the cloud that it blocks your view, or?
Yes, there are some types of clouds we cannot go inside them. It will destroy the airplane.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, it's called cumulonimbus. Cumulonimbus is the highest cloud that you can see. It's the ones that produces thunderstorms. Okay. That huge cloud, it's full of ice balls.
You see, this is what I mean. You cannot go through any clouds with a plane. That's what I thought. Now you make my day now.
You cannot go. You can go on the smaller clouds. It's called stratoclouds. Because cumulonimbus is a specific cloud that is made of really big ice, like balls, and they are going up and down with strong winds inside.
Is that the source of hailstorms?
Yes, those storms are produced by friction. When those balls in contact with each other, they produce the positives and negatives polarities. You know, so when they have enough difference potential, they discharge.
And when those ice balls fall, is that what we see?
Well, when those ice balls fall, they will melt, and as they melt, they turn into water and into rain. Sometimes they don't melt enough, and it becomes hail. You know, hail? Yeah.
Yes.
So we have weather radars to detect those clouds, and we cannot go inside. There have been accidents of airplanes that went inside those big. We are talking about huge, like they go up to 40 and 50,000 feet.
Wow.
Okay. So those types of clouds are for cleaning purpose also, we can say this. So all the toxics go down and all the water vapors go up in the atmosphere. So when airplanes are producing contrails, they are pure ice crystals, nothing else.
Yeah, and it makes sense what she says, because the other day I saw an hailstorm. I think it might more. It's a ice ball storm somewhere in South America or something. But also to occur in a place where it's very hot, it's got to come from high clouds traveling in this area at that time and pouring the stuff down, because the ice ball that size will not form as you go down. It's in the cloud. It comes out the cloud big like that, and it just hit the ground. You know?
And and there's another thing. Those type of clouds, they are like vacuum cleaners. They suck through the ground, you know, they suck. There have been some reports of raining fish and raining frogs. Have you heard about it?
No.
No? Okay. There are some phenomena. So what happens is those clouds, when they are in some specific spots and they can suck like vacuum cleaner, those fishes go inside and they are thrown away miles away, you know, like hundreds of miles away or thousands of miles away in another place.
Wow.
Okay, that can happen too. Yeah.
And what about turbulence? Because a lot of people will experience some small turbulence, heavy turbulence. What is caused by what? By what can you predict before you enter a cloud that you will get heavy turbulence or?
Yes, of course. All those clouds produced heavy turbulence. Those cumulonimbus clouds produce heavy turbulence. Inside a strong, but I'm talking about hundreds of miles wind, you know, vertical and horizontally. So that's why you cannot go inside those clouds. And you have another type of turbulence that is called cleared air turbulence. You cannot see it because it's in the air, it's a clean air. It's made by the winds. The winds aloft are winds that are up there. You can achieve winds about 300 kilometers hours, 300 miles for people who are more used on miles an hour. So, and they go up and they go down. So we pilots have some charts that we can look before flying, and we know what can we expect, okay?
That's it. You know what to expect before they give you your route. You know what to expect. What kind of weather also.
Yes, and then we plan our trip also to avoid those turbulent areas.
Did it ever happen to you? You got
yes,
scared enough and something to scare you? I know you got to keep your composure. You got to keep your strength and all this. You're holding the steering of a plane, but I mean, there's got to be emotion involved in there and a bit of I know you step into all your power and your might and you say, I'm going to conquer that, but you're still human.
Only at takeoffs and landing, not up there, up in the sky, not some strong turbulence, just medium light turbulence like every day. But during some landings, I had some strong winds, yes.
Okay.
For example, Mike should know that because in the Netherlands, when the wind there is strong, it's very strong.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right?
Now, I've got a question for you about the horizon. Okay, we all say, because there's something that popped in my head this week, and we all say that the horizon is rising at eye level no matter how high you go. But I think when you reach a certain height, you must lose sight of the horizon no matter what. We might not go high enough for that, but even on a flat plane, it will not always rise at your eye level. Maybe on a plane at 35,000 feet. But if you go to 120,000 or something like that, at 40,000, that's it. You should lose sight of the, I don't know, there's something that I don't register in that horizon being always at eye level. Maybe...
Did you see my comparison video on that? I did a couple weeks ago.
I think it's you. I think I saw it on your channel. Yeah, that's you. That's how I came to with that question.
I went up to like 1,000,000 miles or so. Of course, I made the
that's
disc.
you on your channel. Exact. Yeah.
I made the disc first. I made the ice. I initially had the ice wall just I don't know, 4 or 5 miles, further out or whatever. I went to 90 degrees or 180 degrees, 90 degrees south. But then for this, when I did the first video of this comparison a couple months ago, I noticed that the horizon on the flat Earth was going down a little bit as you got up pretty high. So on this latest one, I just made the plane the maximum that would be. It was like some billions of miles radius, and I went up to like 1,000,000 miles altitude, and it was still at eye level. And I'm sure if I went up higher, it still would be. So it really depends on how big the plane is. And the Vedas talk about 7 concentric rings and vast distances. So I don't know if it would be billions of miles, but it certainly could be. Could be millions of miles. And I think in that case, you'd have to be really high up to even begin to see a drop in the horizon.
So it's very big.
In fact, the other thing that I noticed since I made the ice wall is white, of course, and what I did, I couldn't really see it very far as you went up high because the sun wasn't lighting that far, south. So I turned on an ambient light in the program just to light it up, just so it would be visible, so it wouldn't disappear into black. And that gave another effect of like an upturned saucer, and that reminded me of the quote from the Picard that had the high altitude record. Him and his assistant went up I think it was in the 1920s or 30s. And the quote that he gave in the Science magazine was, "It looked like an upturned saucer bowl, like an upturned plate with the edges." Well, that's exactly what the ice wall looks like. It's kind of like looking at a salt plain over miles and miles and miles, just like you look out into the ocean, it angles up at you so that horizon reaches your eye level. Well, when it's white, that resembles an upturned saucer bowl. So he probably got up high enough to start to see how far out the south ice walls, ice plateaus go. And plus they probably rise in height physically as they go out because it's just going to get colder. So it's never going to melt, and whatever precipitation they have is going to just be accumulating. And probably doesn't snow as you get further out, but it's probably higher than what it is on the edge.
Steve, do you know where Picard was launching in his?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it was in Europe someplace. It was in the north, I believe. I don't think it was in south of the equator. Could be wrong.
Well, then he had to be really high to see the southern edge.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that if you look at my video again, you start to see this ice wall. You start to see further out on it, and it's sort of turning up. And you don't have to get that high to start seeing that. At 1,000,000 miles, it just became really obvious, and that's when I remembered that quote that he made, and I thought, wow, maybe he was seeing sort of a smaller version of this, and that gave it the impression that it was kind of an upturned edge or something.
Yeah.
I want to add something about that. It's the artificial horizon. I don't know if you were asking me about it, Janik.
Yeah.
You know that we have a device on board that it's called artificial horizon that shows all the pilots where the horizon is compared land and sky, and that instrument is for us to use if we are inside the clouds, for example, or by night. So we have to put the plane always level. That instrument is, there are lots of those instruments. The new ones are electrical, computerized, with all those softwares inside. They make those calculations for the supposed curvature, the supposed spinning, Coriolis force, etc., etc. But the old ones, the ones we have in the small planes, we also have them inside our commercial planes as a backup. If the other fails, we use that one. So that's a mechanical. It doesn't have any compensation for curvature, for spinning, for Coriolis, for whatever. okay? And that instrument I have seen with my eyes. I have been flying from the North Hemisphere, Europe, to South America, near Argentina. So I have to fly all the globe through the equator. And through that flight, that instrument stayed leveled all the flight, always. So for me, it was the big wake up. See, this is happening. Okay, so this is not an instrument with software inside or anything. It's a pure mechanical gyro that is spinning. Okay, and it's rigid in space. So for it to stay leveled all my flight, it could not be on a globe. You know what I mean?
Okay, and my question to this
Yes.
is, and that was a question from someone in the chat.
I
also.
have a question for maybe you don't have the answer, but where do you think this? I mean, I realize it's very easy for most pilots to not even think about this question, and even if it's brought up, they probably would just not believe it like most people do. But at what level in the hierarchy of the corporations, especially considered some of the more private ones like Branson and stuff, know that the Earth is flat? Like, is it the executive board? Is it the owners? Is it nobody?
It's a question for me?
Yes. Well, anybody.
Well, okay, just think about this. They were all born in a globe system, as our parents was, their parents, their grandparents. So everybody is born and learn to live with this. If they don't research
So do
it,
you think a company like Virgin that was trying to get people up in space kind of realized on their own that something's wrong?
Yes, they will realize on their own something wrong. Nobody told them.
Yeah, because otherwise, why would they put their neck out on the line?
Why would they put their neck on the line? Yeah, that's a good question.
No,
Yes.
why would they come out and say, hey, we're going to take first people to space, here's the price and everything, we can do it, we've analyzed the situation, because they just did it in computers, they've never been up that high. And then when they actually got the physical thing made and started doing the tests, they said something's not right.
For me, they believed they had this dream since they were kids to go into space, and they tried, but then they saw they could not go. But and then
Somebody go ahead.
And then I think someone had told him, look, you cannot go, the Earth is flat. And they said, are you kidding me? Of course not, it's a globe, we can do it.
Yeah, but somebody like Musk, he's got to know, of course. He had to have known before going in.
Yes, but
Obvious,
he knows as we know, in the same level, well, in a higher level, but he cannot prove to the world as we cannot prove to the world.
Yeah, for me, he's just piggybacking the scam that's gone on by NASA and the Air Force, and just putting up one satellite after another and doing whatever. He's just getting in on the same contracts, and figuring who's gonna call him out on it. If he can fake it at least better than the governments can fake it, what can they do? I mean, he even took the Air Force to court, and won against them to get contracts. So I just don't know if he's on the inside, as far as the elite or whatever goes. But I think he knew before he even got started in on it that it was just going to be a show, maybe a better one.
I think so. It's hard to believe that this guy Musk and all these people at the head of these agencies, they're just blind.
And the same thing
You don't spend millions of dollars just by being blind.
Or you're going to look at the return. You're going to be looking at, okay, so how much is the cost up into space, and how much do we charge to customers? Well, that sounds like a good business. Can we fake it? Can we pull it off? That's what they're doing. And that's what they did. Nobody could tell on anybody else. Everybody's same as and in the same way, sort of, that the countries are cooperating on the space scam, because it's such a moneymaker, and it also makes them look more advanced to the countries that aren't in on the game.
And all you have to do is get a room full of screaming and cheering teenagers and some scientists, and you got the job pulled off.
Yeah, I mean, their stuff is not even B-rate movie quality. I mean, the CGI work they do, the acting quality and stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's
Have
completely.
you?
Nobody watches it more than 10 seconds, you know. So
Yeah,
it's
it
true.
becomes comedy after a while.
now we're watching it. You know, now I mean, I never ever watched these ISS videos where the
Me neither.
astronauts. I never did it. I only started watching. In fact, I don't watch them now, but I watched enough of them in the beginning to have a good laugh and realize, wow, this is what's going on up there. This is what they're showing people.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
When you look at the last one, the Falcon, the last one they launched 2-3 days ago, it's a real joke. Did you see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the reason why I think they're in the deception with the others is because of the shape of the shuttle. It's shaped like it's a phallus, it's a penis.
Yeah.
Like it's the same as the other ones. They're all in the same shape. They don't come out of the box and invent their own shape of space shuttle. And no, it's all the same. It's
phallic. It's
Yeah.
a phallic one.
a phallic, a representation of a phallic. It's all there. The obelisk, the this, the that. It's all
Yeah, all their stuff is ritualistic. At
yeah.
the
It's all
highest
rich.
levels.
It's all satanic rituals.
Sure. It must have
So-
something to do with where they're putting it in the ocean there in Cape Canaveral too. That's got to have some significance because they're just shooting those things off and dumping them into the Atlantic. So has to be some symbolism behind that too, you know.
There's
Okay, look at Florida.
Where
What
is it going?
What does Florida look like from space?
Yeah, but that's a good question. Where are they going? The shuttles, you know,
What
are
does
they?
it look like? What image does Florida look like from space? Looks like a penis.
That's what it is. That's
Yeah.
what I did it a long time ago. That's what it looks like, and that's the ejaculation when they release the rocket, and that you have the ejaculation in the sky. Look at it, you'll see. It's very clear to me.
Yeah. They're all about the male, you know.
And
So.
not because I'm a male. Not because I'm a male. I say that. It's just because it's.
Well, we're seeing
it's
now
evident.
that all the so-called wives, you know, the presidents and stuff like that. I'm sure you've seen the videos that
Yeah.
show pretty compelling evidence that all their wives for the past, I don't know how many presidents have all been males.
I got a question for Pilot about as a child, when I was a child, my dream was pretty much like all of you, become an astronaut. You know, we look at space and we find it grandiose and all that. So my dream as a child was to become an astronaut for sure. But my next dream was to become a airplane pilot. Because we look up to airplane pilots as much as the astronaut. It's a job that is so prestigious, like lots of prestige, and like it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of you put your life into their hands. It's grandiose. It's a big job, lots of responsibility, and it's big. You're driving an airplane. It's like driving a space shuttle. It's big. It's huge. So it's more than driving your car on the road for sure. So I always look up to this. So. But I wanted to know what does it take? Is it limited to some people to access the big airplanes, like the big commercial airplane? Like, what's the process to get there? Is it as hard as becoming astronaut? Do you have to, at one point, if you know too much, do they introduce you to the brotherhood or stuff like that? Like, what is it? Like, I don't know. That's a reflection I thought.
Well, the process of being pilot is long. It's if you go through the army, it would take you 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. If you go in civil today, minimum 3, 4 years. So you have a lot to study. You have a lot of exams to pass. You have medicals. You have physicals. You have skills, and then you become how you say, enthusiast on going further and further, and as further you go, you want to see where you can go. And I think all pilots one day thought on being astronauts. I also thought being an astronaut, so because it's the top of the flying machines, airplanes, or whatever it go. Today I know it's impossible. But when I was young, I think it was a dream for me to being an astronaut. So you have a process of very inside view that wants to get somewhere you dreamed. And then you have a profession like I have today, and then you realize it's okay, you don't need to go much higher. But as you ask, there are people that going up For me now, as I see astronauts, I see they are as clowns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Huh? When I see the shows on TV, the ISS, I don't see them pilots.
No, today, for sure.
Yeah, the first ones who went to the moon, they were pilots. They were real pilots. They say they were. That's why we have those accidents, those people, those guys that were murdered, the ones that died, and then you saw the interviews of Armstrongs. You know what I'm talking about. They are there. They just you say yes, okay, blah blah, right? They knew it was a fraud. And since then, the astronauts that goes today, they are not pilots. They are actors, right?
Yeah.
We see that. It's obvious. It's obvious. And where you have good pilots, you have good pilots in the manufacturers, the Boeing, the Airbus. They are making the new aircrafts. They have to be test pilots. They have to test. They have to do incredible maneuvers with the new airplanes to check if he's feasible of flying well. And that's today the real astronauts, not the ones that are playing show. Yeah.
This is
What
what
do you
I
think?
go ahead, see.
What do you think happens to the innocent person with the same dreams that just says, "Okay, I want to be an astronaut"? It just goes through the process. I mean, there must be a process, but at the same time, it must be like the process of putting a satellite up. At one point, they're going to fool you. At one point, I don't know what I've seen some YouTube videos where somebody called these satellite companies, like went online and looked up 4 or 5 or 6 satellite companies and just called them and said, "Hey, I want to put a satellite up. What's the deal?" Like on SpaceX. And I don't know how that whole situation handled, but in that video, they couldn't even really speak to anybody. Either nobody answered the phones of these corporations, or if they did, they kind of talked back at them, kind of like confused, like it was the first call they ever got. Put a satellite up. I mean, so what happens to somebody who's got a dream to be an astronaut? At what point do they get tripped up? And
what do I think now? It's that those good engineers, those good pilots are seeing what's going on, and when they go to the interviews of those companies, they have to sense that it's not good. It's not something correct. It's not something that will give him a good job. That's my sense now, because when I see engineers of satellites, when I see those pseudo pilots, I see they are fakes. They are not genuine.
Yes, I like in the beginning.
I had an uncle working in a radar, not a radar, but a satellite company here in Naval, and I confronted him with the satellite being fakes and all that, and he was all offended. He was like, "Hey, no, we construct them, we launch them." He was all offended. So I don't think
they just make the satellites, right?
Huh?
They probably just make the satellites.
Yeah. It's SPAR. It's called the SPAR Society.
It's like those CubeSats that they get some, university students to work on. I wonder at what point, I mean, I've seen those projects where a bunch of university students will create a CubeSat and they're supposed to go up. I don't know what happened. I don't know if the thing exploded and, whatever. And then the kids went on and graduated and it was forgotten about. But, I wonder at what point does this scam become obvious to the person, especially these days, because these days, at least a percentage of people are aware of flat Earth. They might not be researching it, but you've heard about it. It's out there. So somebody that's also got the thought of being an astronaut's got to be kind of like their eyes open as they go up the ladder or through the process. Okay, what do I need? What school do I go to? What certifications do I need? What's next? And at one point it's going to kind of fall apart.
Yeah, no, I'd like to extend on this topic too. That's what Antonio said. It's a good topic.
Yeah.
Sure, go, Antonio.
Like a story, a testimonial of who's tried that. I was a normal person. I tried to become an astronaut. Here's what happened.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, I think what you're getting to is described as a critical mass. And I think you hit the nail on the head by saying that at this point, there's a certain percentage of people that are at least curious about flat Earth, but even a smaller percentage of people are willing to get on a radio show and talk about it and put this into words and find others that are similar to discuss our ideas together. So what's happening is that at some point that critical mass wakes up, and unfortunately, and I think Mike said this to me, he says the elites will bring on Armageddon before this becomes a critical mass. So they start shutting people up, but before they shut you up, they try to buy you. So they're like, hey, let's go to Tru-Mon show. Let's offer him $1 million to not ever talk about this again.
To shut him up.
And
if you disappear, we know what happened.
Yeah, if I disappear, you know what happened.
My God.
But this is a formula, and it's proven to work very well for them. So at some point, though, somebody's going to be like, no, man, you cannot buy me. And so they probably kill you, or you get away with not getting killed, or you end up like that astronaut woman. Remember her a few years ago that she drove across the country in a diaper to like beat somebody up, an ex-boyfriend or something? I think that's bullcrap. Yeah, I think she was getting ready to talk, and they had to like destroy her in the media, you know?
Sure.
Yeah. But great topic. This is the important thing that we should speak about, because my effort here, and Tru-Mon, I think you were invited to the Slack channel. You might have seen some interesting topics that we brought up. I wanted to create a project with the Go Fast rocket team. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They allegedly sent up a rocket 72 miles into space, and I spoke with the founder. And I spoke with a couple other dudes that were on his team, and they want $130,000. My theory is that we can provide $150,000, and the only thing we'll find out is that they never went that high, or they'll do it, but for one reason or another, something will happen. And he mentioned to me that the insurance alone was $50,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that is a lie, you know? But it's a lot of money to gamble. And I don't know, it leads us to some interesting things. What do you guys think about getting the balloon? I wanted to get together with Bob Noddle, but I can't get through to him. He's setting up a balloon this month.
I wanted to send several balloons at the same time. Just to have
Yeah.
a 360 view. You launch several balloons, but that takes a budget.
Yeah.
I think would be very, very interesting to send the rocket in space with cameras, not a fisheye lens, but with normal lens. But we know they will do everything for us not to launch that ship, of course.
Yeah, can I go myself, build a rocket, I have all the money to build a rocket, having the site and launch anything I want in the sky like this?
No, you need permission. You need permission because all the airspace is controlled. You cannot launch rockets into space. Only in Africa or some place where there's no traffic. Even there, they will go for you. Yeah.
Yeah, insurance company has to approve you.
Something sort of related to what you're talking about. I'm going to be doing a video pretty soon, and about an idea I had that, you know, if Glober's system was really real, this is something that you would see in today's age. And that's to have a company like Nikon or whatever make one of these CubeSats, and you can call any of these satellite companies, apparently, SpaceX or whatever, put the CubeSat up there, and it does one thing. It's got a camera on it, and it points directly to Earth always. It stays in orbit 2 or 3 years, whatever. But something like that for a camera company with their logo on there, how many views would that get? A live view of Earth, a real live view of Earth. And it would cost them nothing compared to what they spend on advertising. It wouldn't even be near that. You know, they launch multiple of those things. So, you know, I'm going to do a video where I'm going to put one up in space around my globe Earth model and do the whole project basically.
And I think also the fact of launching a rocket and blasting rockets with fuel and retarded stuff like that is, you know, when you can use levitation to levitate. I'm sure we could probably in the past, oh, look, we have built the pyramids. Who built the pyramids if it's not us? You know, so that we could, instead of blasting retarded stuff like rockets and a bunch of fuel, fossil fuel, but fossil, not fossil, but fuel in the air and stuff, why not use levitation?
You know, we assumed the pyramids were built, but there's another theory that they are actually taken apart. That they're actually, if you've read into giants, like mud fossils, where giants have not decomposed, but have died underneath the mud where there's no oxygen, they mineralize. And that a lot of these structures that we see that they're calling like tree stumps and stuff are really just tendons, because that happens to be the most naturally mineralized part in the body, you know. And that things like the pyramid were actually parts of giants, even the Sphinx. You know, this guy shows how the Sphinx, you know, like, for example, doesn't have the nose, you see the sinus cavity in there. Like, you know, if it was a statue.
Giants, yeah.
Sinus cavity. And how it's all perfectly proportioned and everything is because it really was a giant head. You know, I mean, you know, if you study the Jain philosophy, for example, they talk about giants 6 miles tall. So imagine the body parts of a 6 mile tall humanoid, you know. So the pyramids may have just been these cubical structures, because your tendons on a microscopic level, they are hexagonal, they are cubic in nature. All the parts in the body are. It's just how they work. We just don't see it in the macro. So if you from a giant and you just like creating a statue, you know, to take away what you don't need, then you've got something that's got blocks that look like they were precisionally put together, precisionally done, and all you've had to do is basically chip off what you didn't want.
Yeah, it's very interesting that. And for me up there, I can see lots of evidence of strange things that looks like giant things up in the area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a dragon that the same guy found in Morocco, I believe, the desert of Morocco.
Yes, Africa,
and it's
yes.
Clearly, yeah, I'm talking about, his name is Roger, I can't remember his last name, but he has a really good video on that where he goes down from the dragon's mouth. You see a whole side profile of the dragon with the feathers, you know, the plume, the whole thing, and it just covers, I don't know how many hundreds of miles, maybe 400 or 500 miles.
Well, it's like 500 miles, yes, wide.
And you can't explain it as anything else. It's obviously a dragon, and a very big one, you know, and we're literally living on the decomposition of these beings that were humongous, you know, and you might think at first that wow, a 6 mile human, that's gonna, you know, he could walk over the United States in you know, not too many steps, right? Just to see what the proportion would look like, I stuck a 6 mile humanoid on my flat Earth map, you know, the standard AE map, and if you fly up, I don't know what altitude, but where you can see most half of Africa, about that altitude, it's hot. So you could easily have an Earth space like we have, and have thousands or hundred thousands of beings that are 6 miles tall. You know, would be no problem with that.
That's why I say when I'm flying up there that we are very small, but very, very, very small compared with
all these huge structures that we try to come up with. ETs built them, levitation or whatever. They could have been practically toys, you know, in the hands of the right size being.
Great. I have another question for Pilot to bring him on another, not subject, but another thing. Is the moon. Okay, the moon. When I on the ground, I can see the moon sometime very big when it's low on the horizon, and even when it's right here in front of me, I see it pretty big. Like it's big. It's but when I look at your videos from your plane, it looks very small. Could be the lens of the of your video camera. But do you? When you're up there, from your eyes, you must see it bigger than me on the ground, or do you see it like how does that make sense? Then?
Well, I see it smaller up there than I see on the ground, especially when it is rising or on the horizon, right?
Yeah.
I think on the horizons it's a matter of this. I don't know the word in English. Refraction.
Lensing one. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So I don't have that effect. I have some photos I took of the moon that is setting, and it's very small, like it's far away. I think the perspective I have up in the sky is more correct about the plane we live, and the further away, even in the with the sun rising, I can see that is coming from a position. It's not appearing like we see on ground, and the moon is
I
the
found
center.
that same effect when I started doing views after I added the Atmos plane in my model, and I made it 100 miles thick just because we really don't know. It goes from basically refractive, a higher refractive index to a lower refractive index. So I get that same effect you're talking about. If I'm going up looking at the sun, I see that I start to see it further away and further away than I would see on the ground. So what you're describing makes sense.
Yeah, so that could be interesting also to study about why up in the air we have a different perspective of the objects that are rising up in the sky.
Yeah,
and most of the waters, it's most dense on the ground.
Another thing I can notice different is the wandering stars, the so-called planets, Jupiter, Venus. I see them up there like flashing, changing the light, changing the colors. It's very interesting, this one.
Yeah.
Do they look just like the stars? It's sort of like the stars?
Sort of like the stars, but much more active. Because I see red, I see blue, I see white, changing the color like it's a...
The sizes of the planets in my model, I came up with using various ways, and it's too much to explain in a short amount of time, but the altitudes of some things depend on other things. For example, the moon and the sun are related. Venus and Mercury are also related to the sun and the moon because you have the transits and you have the eclipses and things like that. So you can move them up and down as a set, but in relation to each other, there's only really one solution where all those events happen. So that helps you to get the differences. But the planets are a little more variable because, we know that the planets don't go below the sun, so it gives you kind of a lower limit, But by using their arc-second measurements and these types of conclusions, the planets are bigger than the stars, or what we call stars. I call them mini moons, and they're around the altitude of the sun and the moon, and being lit by the sun. That's how I have them. That's how they work in my model. That's how they work with refraction to do the star trails. They can't be at any other altitude. They don't work at any other altitude. So they're around 4,000 miles up. So maybe you're seeing the planets differently than the stars because they're a little bigger. Same reason that the Nikon camera can take really great pictures of the moon, can take a little not so good pictures of the planets, and then take really crappy pictures of the stars, making them look like, kind of wavering, watery objects. And I think it's just because of their size, their angular resolution is too small for the camera to properly focus on.
Well, it also has to do with atmospheric conditions.
Sure.
Sometimes you can get a great shot with a P900 of a planet, and then you switch over to the moon, and it will also be in focus. But if the sky is humid, or it's been a hot or a very cold day, for instance, you can get a lot of interference from the atmosphere.
But from the pilot's perspective, I was commenting about what he said, because being up higher, you're getting away from the majority of that, because it's the densest near the surface, so really are thick, and especially if you consider pollution and light pollution involved too. He was saying that the planets look different than the stars, I believe he said, and I was thinking it's because the stars are smaller. What we think are huge are actually smaller than the planets. At least that's what I think.
Yeah. You create the illusion of depth just by making objects smaller and less bright.
Sure, huge.
Yeah.
But I still have a question lingering in my mind: is why if like pilot is in his plane and he has the moon in front of him, the closer if I put any objects on the other side of the street, I'm going to see it small, but the closer I get to it, the bigger I'm going to see it. So the moon should get bigger and bigger the closer you get to it. How big is the moon according to your research, guys? How big would be the moon?
I think the moon is a projection of its source. It's not the moon we see, but the projection, as the sun also. We not see the sun, but the projection of the sun. I think the other Mike or Steve can tell better about it.
Yeah, I would like to have more on this.
Yes, Steve and I have different ideas about the sun and the moon. Um, I kind of share what Steve thinks about the sun and the moon with parts of the with regards to the atmospheric refraction. But I'm working on something, or at least I'm considering something different. Like Pilot said, the concept of a source projection. It kind of works the same as a rainbow. You know, a rainbow has a source, and the source is the sun. It needs water for it to appear.
Okay, yeah, you just made a good point there. The rainbow is a projection, is not the rainbow.
No, and if you look at a rainbow
Ah,
and the rainbow hits the ground somewhere, for you, the observer, you will see the light from that rainbow light up that specific place on the ground. But the people who live there, they don't see that rainbow when they look up. No, they have to look in the same direction to see the rainbow. And that's, to me, the sun appears to act the same way, because if you just let it go in circles or in straight lines over any projection, you get some very hard problems or issues to solve with the azimuth rise and set angles, especially on the equinoxes, for instance. And where every meridian everywhere on Earth sees the sun rise 90 degrees east and sets 90 degree or 270 degrees west. If that sun is 40 miles in diameter, well, you need to bend your meridians towards the sun to get those angles. But if the sun passes over you, you have to bend the meridian to the other side to keep those angles correct, and that's not possible. So if the sun is a physical object we see, well, then we have to figure out a way to make those angles work. And you can get a lot of that done by refraction or lensing from the atmosphere, because we don't know how thick the atmosphere is. It could be thousands of miles. We don't know. If we measure the height of the sun now, it will be around 3,100 to 4,000 miles. So everything in between that is atmosphere, and we don't know what the contents of that atmosphere is. So if it's a refraction gradient, we don't know how far it's being refracted down towards us in that thick layer of atmosphere.
but
But
that's
but
sorry.
just atmospheric refraction. If you in cinema 4D, for instance, if you increase the refraction, it also increases the distortion of the object. Steve knows this. If you make a spherical object suffer under the effects of refraction, it will become oblate. And if you look at the sun, it's always a perfect circle, except maybe if it's rising or setting, but it's always a perfect circle. It's never distorted or oblong or,
Yeah,
it's always the same size and the same shape. It doesn't change its disk size as it crosses the sky during the day. It happens when it sets or it rises, but that could be an effect of refraction or lensing or looming or whatever.
Yeah, and talking about the size of the objects, when I originally had, before I discovered, that or figured out how to do the atmospheric lensing, I had spheres, because they look good from the ground, and, didn't have any other better idea really. But I was always thinking that kind of a weird, why would they be balls up there, spheres? Well, how could you live on a sphere? Especially with the sizes that I was coming up with. So when I put the Atmos plane in, I realized that it made them oblique, oblong. And then I changed them to just flat discs just for the hell of it, and then they look fine. So it makes spheres look like kind of footballs, and it makes, flat circles look kind of like spheres. At least it doesn't make them look like eggs. It doesn't distort them. And your question about why doesn't the moon get larger or smaller as you would think, you have to also consider that if it is about 4,000 miles above you, then the closest it's ever going to be to you is 4,000 miles away. And if we can see it about 6,000 miles lateral distance away, if you do a triangle, you're still looking at just a little more than 6,000 miles to reach the moon where you would consider it setting on the horizon. So it's not a big difference, 4,000 and 6,000. And then when you add in the distance and the atmospheric lensing, that compensates for its size. So the atmosphere has two effects for us. They make the object that we can see, no matter how far it is, as long as it's within our viewing circle, we see it the same as everybody else. It gives us our personal view. And the other effect that it gives is it keeps the size constant through the viewing cycle from rise to set, which to me is very, very, very magical, very godlike, very advanced. That's one hell of a system, right? I mean, it's beyond anything we could even conceive.
Yeah.
So it gives a really nice sky view, a spherical looking sky view to the observer on the ground, so that we see the maximum that we can see, and we don't get any distortion. Other than looking through a lot of dust and stuff, the star doesn't turn into a pencil on the horizon. It stays basically to size and shape.
Yeah.
I think Anthony wanted to add something.
Yeah, I think this whole topic of perspective is a very, very weak attack point for us to prove our points, to prove or to at least spark an investigation. One obstacle that I am trying to get over is the compartmentalization that all of us have been raised in. So many of us are experts in engineering, or even in engineering. I'm an electrical engineer, I'm a civil engineer, and nobody wants to cross or step into other people's feet or onto other people's feet. So I reached out to the Land Surveyor Society. And of course, you get the people calling you stupid and you're an idiot, blah, blah, blah. And I'm over that. I don't really care anymore. But you know what? I got one guy. I've got this one dude. I'm not ready to release his name, but we're exchanging emails. And I've been able to provide or ask the right questions, because I am not a land surveyor. I will not pretend to be an expert. But if you could formulate the right language and put your curiosities into thought, and thought that you could transfer into another person, all of a sudden some questions come up that don't have an explanation, and it makes them angry because they're supposed to be the expert. So if you could get through and they don't get so pissed off at you, you have to like play conversational jujitsu or conversational judo. And I got this guy, man, and he's about to like join our Slack channel. He's and it was easy. I just started talking about this whole idea of perspective. I said, all right, listen, I've got this piece of board. I'm going to paint it black. It measures 5 meters by 5 meters. I'm going to put a grid lens on my camera without a fisheye lens, of course. And I'm just going to move this black panel or board, whatever you want to call it, 100 meters away from us, and calculate how many grids or pixels it takes up on our lens. Move it 200 meters away, etc., 300 meters, and let's create a formula. Let's make it this mathematical and provable. And so he did some calculations, and all of a sudden this whole idea that ships disappear because they go over the curve of the earth is like, all right, let's do this. This is science and math. Let's talk about what's going on. And we start to bring up other topics. And all of a sudden you get some really intelligent people that have even more questions beyond my compartmentalization. And I think this is how we have to attack this.
Yeah, I agree totally with that, Tony.
Thanks. I love this group, and primarily because there's so many different ones of us here from different areas that can add to what's happening. But I'm convinced that we have to, and I know this is the most dangerous thing, but you get those people waking up, and watch out for the stampede, because you'll get trampled by the herd, But thanks to you, Tru-Mon. I'm not kissing up to you, but I do think this show is so important. I really do.
But I try to stay consistent in my stuff. It's important. That's one thing I master is consistency. Like I said, unless they take me away or do something with me, I'll still be here. But this is all false expectation appearing real sometimes. It's just not something I think about. I never think about this. I think about love, and I think about good vibrations and stuff that we can all relate to instead of evil stuff. So we can all relate to love. That's what we are. So let's talk about love and use the power of love. And this is what we're using to do today. This is the power of love that brings us all together. Nothing else but that. But once we start getting in touch with what love is, we tend to extrapolate the feeling and, bring it to others. And that's what we do. It's a one love.
Yeah, and the truth is going to lead us there. Just like the saying, the truth will set you free. And I appreciate you working towards that.
Yeah, I'm never gonna stop. I'll still be here until I have no more breath going through my nostril. There's so much work to be done. This is the thing. Boredom should not exist. Nobody should be bored. There's the whole world waiting for you with something to do. No? You have something to bring here. There's truth in what we do. So do it.
Yeah, definitely. Can we talk a little bit about what was happening in the mainstream media over the last few weeks with some of these celebrities coming out? And I think now it's kind of died down.
Go ahead.
Well, I'll just give it an intro, but I'd like to hear everyone's opinion about Shaquille O'Neal, which now he backstepped. He said that he was just kidding about the flat Earth. Our friend Johnny Bravo from this... that radio show, I forgot his name right now. Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan.
The InfoWars people are starting to talk about it more. Is this going to die down or is this going to take off? What do you guys think?
I'll give my opinion first. I think it's great that more and more people talk about it, but there's already millions of videos on YouTube. I talk about it every day, every morning. I'm live on YouTube talking about it. So that Shaquille O'Neal or John Travolta or another one comes out talking about it, we are one. If one of us win, we all win. If one of us start to think, we all start to think. So whether it's John Travolta or, to me, it has no relevance in my life because I started to think myself. I started to see clear. So I don't need anybody else to come and instruct me on how to open my eyes and see that the flat earth is there. No, I open my eyes to life. And I'm also on YouTube. But if you're not on YouTube and if you look at these celebrities as being stars and that... No, John Travolta didn't talk about this. I'm just saying he's also a commercial pilot, but he didn't talk about this. He didn't. I'm just giving an example. But if to me, okay, you can have Shaquille O'Neal, you can have all of them coming out, but at the end, what does it do exactly? It creates more confusion, I think, in the Matrix, and this is what they want. This is what it's, if they're talking mainstream, or it's because there is something that they control the information that is given to people. That's for sure, that they own the media, so they control it. But is it a good thing that more and more people talk about it? Yes, but we must have intent to talk about it, but also discipline to want to change things and go out and speak and get on panels like this and put your face out there and stuff and do things and speak your mind. Just speak your mind. I think it's very important. So whether it's Shaquille O'Neal or anybody else, but one that I seen recently was Johnny Bravo. I think it's Johnny Bravo.
Yes.
Eddie Bravo. Eddie Bravo came out on InfoWars, and InfoWars deleted the debate. Apparently, I haven't checked the archives. That's what people say. I haven't checked, but it seems I liked what he said. I like what he said on the show. He's very, very, Eddie seems to be very aware and more aware than the other peoples on his panels, especially the little talk he had with Eric Dubé. I watched a bit of it, and he seems aware. He seems on board, but I think it's I don't know. It's one-on-one. Whether it's me, whether it's you, whether it's Eddie Bravo or John Travolta, whoever talk about John Travolta didn't came out talk about flat Earth, but anyway, whoever talks about it, we are one. We are one. So we are one.
As soon as you see mainstream pushing the flat Earth, it's got to have a different agenda than just bringing out genuine news, because
exactly
these guys do everything with a hidden agenda.
Yeah.
So if Shaquille O'Neal is coming on big TV or on InfoWars or whatever, that's controlled media, you know, and They just want to control the information, and if they can't destroy the flat Earth movement from the outside, they're going to try to destroy it from the inside. You know, with Shaquille O'Neal coming out to say I'm a flat earther, nah, man, it's all a joke. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's
how
what
you.
they're gonna do.
That's how you steer people away. That's the same tactic the Flat Earth Society use, because they have in-house trolls that come to people that are new to this. They go to the Flat Earth Society and they just troll them, saying, "Oh man, it's all a joke. Don't take it serious." It's the same tactic, and Shaquille O'Neal did the same thing. So
Yeah. Pilot, what's your take on this?
Yes, I think it must be very important, this theme of flat Earth, for them to try everything to keep it away from people and hide it, because it's the truth. And I think much is involved around it. It's a globalist. It's where we live. You know, it's about who we are, what we are doing here. It's too much, and the system doesn't want us to know what we really are, what we are doing here, and what is our purpose, where do we live, the shape of the earth, etc., etc., etc.
yeah, that guy who did that best flat Earth rant on YouTube said it pretty well. He said that if everybody understands where they live on, all governments lose their legitimacy.
Yes, that's the point. They will lose power because people will not need them anymore.
Exactly.
They don't want to lose the power. That's the problem. That's the issue. That's the key, that people have to understand what's going on and why they lie. Yeah. And why it's important to know where we live, if the earth is a plane, not a globe, etc., etc.
And what about Steve? Did Shaquille O'Neal change your life?
Not yet, no. But I agree. I agree with what Mike said. You know, that it's, if they can't attack something one way, they attack it another, and their way of attacking it is to join it and try to break it up within. But I think they don't have a hope in hell to break up. I think it's too big. You know, I think that there's just too many good videos on YouTube that at least make you want to look into it further. And depending on what type of person you are, you're going to come to a conclusion one point or another.
But you're going to go on YouTube at one point or another. To know the truth, you have to reach out to other people, because we are the truth. So you have to reach out to others. It's very important. But the ego, the false pride, and all stuff like that prevents us from reaching out, for even learning from other people. It took me to put down my ego to even learn on YouTube, and then go on and put myself out there. So it's a big work on ourselves, but we're getting there. We're awakening. So if we're awakening, if one of us is awakening, the rest will follow eventually.
Yeah, and I don't think they expected it to go like that. I don't think they expected.
I don't think they were expecting it to go that fast and they pick up that much speed. And
well, I the Illuminati card deck has a flat Earth card. You know, so to me, there's something going on with that too. You know, the card says people laugh, but flat earthers know something. That's the first sentence on that card. You know, that's true. We know something, and people laugh. And that card deck was made in the 80s or 70s or what is it? So that's a long time ago. And so the flat Earth has not been something they didn't prepare for it. At least that's what my feeling says about it.
And also,
I just don't think they expected the response that they got. I think that, you know, especially if you're looking back into the 80s, I mean, who could have predicted YouTube? You know, I mean,
and like you said,
not only that, but how we would use it, and you know, and how it would educate people and inform people, you know, in a completely uncontrolled way.
Yeah, and like he said, the stuff that we know that people laugh at us because supposedly we know stuff about flat Earth. This is stuff that they know themselves and they reject. It's just that they reject themselves. I was rejecting myself, my truth, everything. So that's why I wasn't able to see clear. I was blinded by the light. I was in dark. Now I'm into the light, and I see clear, and I see crystal clear, and I can even share my feelings online. So that's even better. But yeah, I think people are blind to themselves.
For you to open your eyes, you need to fall on your face a few times. You know,
Yeah,
and that's what happens to me. I thought I was a pretty wise guy, and I what I called on Rob's Ski was a vicious flat Earth debunker. You know. And I fell on my face flat, you know, a couple of times because I thought I knew something, and the end result was that, you know, I actually didn't know anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I believed a whole lot, but I didn't know very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is that we were all indoctrinated by schools, by media, by our parents and parents' system. That's the problem, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Anthony, I prefer Anthony. It's written Antonio on the thing, but Anthony is good too. He said about, you know, solution and actions. You know, what kind of actions can we take, concrete action, not just speaking on YouTube, but concrete action to make more people aware. Like, I understood now they're making some kind of a conference about the flat earth. I haven't been invited. I don't know why.
You probably will soon. There's still a few more months before
I don't know why.
That's going to be in South Carolina, I think, in November or
Yeah.
September. I don't remember. But regarding an action plan, I'm relatively new to this whole concept and exploring further. But there's other folks that have been in the know for 10 years or 5 years. I can't imagine living for another year without absolutely knowing and without this being mainstream conversation. There's just no way I can continue. So when we got into this group, we one of the main things I said, all right, well, let's set up a rocket. Let's set up a balloon. And I'm finding obstacles. Even though the limits of my work have been simply phone conversations and emails and bringing others to the group, I think I'm going to focus more on creating that critical mass. And I know I've said that about 3 or 4 times in this show, but I think that's going to be the limits. I think that's going to be the effect that we can have to really create others and uniting with other bigger groups. Jeranism is now in our Slack channel. If we could all of a sudden create a group of, I don't know, 20 or 50 of these dudes that are reputable, we could really make a move and turn it into something that everyone talks about. What are some other action plans that we can do? I mean, aside from a balloon or a rocket, some of the work that Steve and Mike do is very compelling. And I have to admit, I don't consider myself a stupid person or someone who, I mean, I can read and write, okay? So I have some intellectual capacity, but their conversations become very complicated. If you try to explain refraction or a parent's son to the layman, their eyes are going to glaze over and they're not going to listen to you. So we have to do things that are very obvious. Like, what are some other ideas that we can do? And maybe I could get some campaign going for I know Pilot is very fond of getting some of the Kickstarters. I'm not a big fan of that, though, because it copies the corporate model. They keep a huge percentage of the funds you raise, and it just feeds the machine. But I'm not completely against it if it'll get us somewhere. Are there any other ideas we can put out there?
But me, I think action, each in our own, like my interest, my passion is motivation, inspiration, and I want to become a well-known motivational speaker, and I'm going to associate the truth with it. So I do my part in this. Pilot is a airplane pilot, so he's talking to all kinds of big people. You know, he can do a big part in there. Steve also with his video, with his research, we all have something to bring to the table, and this is what makes us unique and with a unique signature vibration here. And this is what we have to express, because look, I do my thing. I might not know all the stuff that you guys are talking about, but I'm interested by it, and I want to know, and I want to, I want the people to know. So I created a show, and I said, okay, it's time for the truth now. So, it's just by little action that we take in our everyday life. I think it's going to be hard to change the world, but we can change ourselves and we can pass on the message, because the consciousness you embody, no matter what, affects everyone around you. Just your vibrational signature change. Everything change, your vibration. So,
well, yeah, Tony, maybe a good idea is to set up public debates between renowned flat Earth researchers and people from the hardcore science community or education departments from schools.
yeah,
Serious people, and they will probably go or not come because of the topic, but maybe some will bite. And
or what could be possible is to get people that from the mainstream science community, but have seen clear and can come and tell us what they've seen and what they realize that is lies and everything.
But people who are working in the science community, who know that there's a lot of deception going on, will probably not speak about it in public.
But that's it, not to lose their job also. They have a career.
That's why you have to have scientists and believers from education departments or science communities that will bite for an invitation to debate those silly flat earthers, and you record everything and just put it on YouTube.
On the Tru-Mon show.
Yeah.
Tru-Mon show is the archives. No, that's good. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else. The big birds. I wanted to ask a pilot if you ever got in, okay, we see birds here from the ground. I see little birds, little mouettes and stuff, but have you ever seen birds that we don't see from the ground, like big, huge birds or stuff or have you ever run your plane into a herd of birds and stuff like that?
No, never, and I hope I will never do that. I love animals. I don't want to kill them.
Okay, but it's not something that happens frequently, the birds in the air?
Yes, normally during takeoffs or landings, they are there, and there are some bird strikes is the technical term, bird strike.
Okay, yeah.
Here in Europe, the birds are small compared with in Africa or in Brazil. The birds are much bigger, and normally they cause huge impact on the airplanes.
Okay.
So it's a threat. It is a threat to the airplanes. But normally they don't fly high. They go as high as 10,000 feet. I'm telling you, I already seen one above that high, around 15,000 feet, but it's not normal.
Okay. Usually the birds fly low, 10,000 feet, so they don't hit airplanes, the commercial airplanes.
Not
that was one of my.
But
I'm
during
sure
lands, during lands and takeoff, they are there, and what happened in the Hudson River. The other guy that went to a big flock of birds, and all the engines went out, and he had to make a landing, not a landing, but in the river, right?
Yeah.
It was okay, no losses, everything went fine. He was lucky, yes. They made a movie. Have you seen that movie?
No?
Yeah, that's a movie about it.
I know which one you're talking about. I think it was in Michigan Lake or Hudson Bay.
Hudson River, yeah.
Hudson River.
I think I remember something, but
New York, yeah.
I've seen a lot of movies in the past. I was very distracted. Very distracted for my purpose, so I had all kinds of distraction. That's what happened. That's what prevents me from probably being on YouTube before. So, guys, I don't know if you want to add something else. I don't want to keep you here too long either. It's an hour and a half.
Oh, it was very fine. Thank you again for your invitation. Yes.
It was great. I learned a lot of stuff, and especially about the clouds. Even the clouds, I wonder how they can stay in suspension in the air if they're so heavy with so many water crystals in there. How can it stay up there? Why doesn't it come falling down? If I'm on a parachute and I jump off the plane, I will fall down.
Because
even with the parachute.
Gravity.
Parachute, come on. What?
Because there is no gravity.
Yeah.
That's why.
So how the clouds can stay up there? Can they stay suspended out there? That's a big question.
they are less dense than the air, less dense than the atmosphere. That's why they are there.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
about
yeah.
buoyance also, right? Because the
Buoyancy,
atmosphere,
flottabilité. Il y a la loi de la flottabilité. Là. OK.
the atmosphere, it's a fluid, right? Like the water is a fluid, the atmosphere is a fluid. So it's about buoyancy and density, of course.
So much things we have to learn.
Yeah.
To relearn, to unlearn and relearn. But that's okay. We have patience. We have patience. We'll be here again for a long time on YouTube. We're not going away. We're not going anywhere. So, guys, thank you very much for being here. It was a great show. Yeah, great show. I enjoyed it. I some stuff that I'm gonna rewatch it because often, when I concentrate in doing the show, I don't really I pay attention to what you say, but I mean, I like to rewatch it to really get it on my own. So thanks, Steve. Thanks, Pilot. Thanks, Mike. Thanks,
Yes.
Anthony. And hopefully we can do this again another time. I'm very open to redo it anytime. We can maybe get together into that
Nice.
group chat and put a couple get together and put subjects down, and then we go through that. And I'm very open. No problem there.
And more questions, you can ask questions or for the outside public and to come in.
Yeah, that's it. That would be good. An open hangout also, type of thing like that. Or I was monitoring the question in the chat, but they were only pretty much talking between themselves. So I was picking up the question as they come by, but it's hard. There's like 41 viewers live and about 30 people in the chat, so it's hard sometimes to follow the whole thing. But thank you very much for being here, guys. Thank you for everyone who watched it, and that's it. See you
Thank
next
you.
time.
See you
Buy
next time.
Bitcoin, everybody. Everybody buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye. Thanks very much. See you next time.
See you.